Oh my god, I spent such a stupid amount of time trying to get the light right. Like, some days I do these videos and I think, wow, I look so good. And then other days I sit and I'm like, ew. Ugh. And I think it was just the lighting. Like, I was looking all washed out and like gray. So I don't know what that's about. I just think the world is conspiring against me. I don't know. I've been really tired this week, hence the rambling. But the book that I'm talking about is Maame. I just read it, honestly, a couple weeks ago, but I've been not making videos. So luckily I made a bunch of like bookmarks and notes because I don't think I'd remember much about like the highlights of this book otherwise. I'm gonna start drawing. Also, I love starting a new drawing. Like, I love being at these beginning phases, but as far as content goes, it's not the best. So I hope you enjoy watching me stipple this neck for the next however many minutes. I like to do the neck first because it's the most uninteresting. Like, there's nothing going on. It's just like a solid block. And this is all pretty much like the same lighting, so there's not going to be a lot of variation. So yeah, I read this book. No idea what to expect. I never read the summary of the book or whatever. I just knew it was about a black girl. And that is all I knew going in. So I was hooked right away. It starts out really strong. I was very invested in her. She had like relatable problems without feeling pathetic. Like, I hate when I'm supposed to feel sorry for or pity the main character, because I just don't like that. It's like, ew, that's not for me. But even though she had a lot of problems, that it was like, girl, if you would just take a step back, you would see that these are problems. At no point did I ever feel like the main character was dumb or oblivious. It was pretty easy to see why she was in the situations that she was in. She was a people pleaser, basically, which I think everyone can relate to in some way. Even I have some people pleasy tendencies, and I saw those reflected in this character, and it was nice to see them represented and called out. So one of the first notes I made was when she's talking about how she felt like she could never truly be a best friend to someone because no one knows her. Had I read this as like a kid, I think that would have really resonated with me. Like, moving so much, it was easy and hard, because when you're always new and then you know you're gonna move again, you just don't really get close to people. So sometimes, like, when people talk about having these like childhood friends, I'm like, oh, I can't relate because we moved so much. I didn't build those bonds as a kid. I definitely feel like I have them now as an adult, but for years, like especially through like high school, that is something that I felt like I almost wish I had read this book when I was younger, but I don't think it had even been written yet. But I like that call out. Like, friendship is so romanticized in media. You've got like Friends, but then pretty much every show centers around like a tight knit, super close group where they're all best friends. And it's like, is that even possible? So it's nice to see a book where the person is also asking themselves that question. There was a really funny part about someone who looked depressed having a moment with the main character, and he's described as eating a before 10 a.m. burger. Like, I have been there. Honestly, love a morning burger. I don't need to be depressed to live that life. So that part made me laugh. It had a great excerpt, a description of her wash day routine, which I loved reading. Like, I love reading about how people take care of their hair. It's just cathartic to listen to. Like, I have mine. We all hopefully have a wash day routine. I just jostled this camera, but I don't know, it's just fun seeing what people do. Sometimes I pick up some tips, so that was nice. I don't think I've ever surprisingly read a book that went through a whole wash day routine, so that's weird. Um, there is a character, so she does have two close friends, and she's describing them, and one of them she mentions having really dark, sort of piercing dark eyes, and hardly ever in media are dark eyes talked about as a positive attribute. Like, I was even just watching the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, and they're talking about how Michael Myers has dark eyes and like they're evil eyes, and there's no empathy in these dark eyes. And I'm like, do you know how many people have like, what's wrong with having dark eyes? It doesn't mean you're evil. Like, I have dark eyes. I don't know. It frustrates me to no end. You'll even hear it in actual true crime documentaries. Like, they'll talk about how some murderer had dark eyes, and that's how you knew that he was like dead inside. And it's like, are you sure about that? It's stupid. So that was refreshing. There were also some really nice moments of like social commentary. And similar to other books I've read, it did a really good job calling attention to issues without those issues overshadowing the plot, or without feeling like it was explaining the obvious to me, because obviously this book is written with a wide audience in mind. Like, a lot of people reading this book already know what racism is and experience it. Oops. They don't need that experience to be spoon-fed to them. You know, like, I get it. I live it. It's exhausting if someone's trying to tell you, oh, this is why racism is bad. It just jumps right into experiencing it and explaining it to the person perpetrating it, because it was a situation where it was kind of like what I would call, what people call like casual racism. Like, the person isn't outwardly, like, no one's throwing out the N-word or something, which is what I think a lot of maybe sheltered folks think of. Like, anything less than that, they don't want to call it that. And so one of the phrases that was used was like, it seemed like too small an action to describe as racism, because racism is such a heavy word. And the situation she was in was just someone, it was just little things where she wasn't being treated quite right. And it's definitely like, when you analyze it, it's informed by the fact that she is a woman of color, but it's not these outward aggressive things. And I think it's important to call out that even though it is such an inflammatory word, that is the word for every scale of action. So I don't feel like explaining the whole, because, I want you to read the book. I don't feel like explaining the whole scene. But it's really good. You should read it. It was just refreshing because she does kind of stand up for herself, which was nice. It wasn't just like, oh my gosh, that happened, poor me. There was no moment where like a white person had to come in and save her. Like, she stood up for her. It was very refreshing. I loved it. I also am so used to reading books where like she stands up for herself and it's just ignored or not well received, and that wasn't really the case here. So very refreshing in that sense, not draining or exhausting, which is kind of what I expected. Another thing that I really liked was someone did accuse her of playing the race card. She said it's only a card to people who think of it as a game. And I was like, I don't know if I've heard that before, but I loved it. I was like, if anyone ever says that to me, I am using that. I am shamelessly stealing that because it's so good. No one said that to me in a while, though, thank goodness. And then the last thing, the last note that I have is when she is kind of reflecting on the relationships that she has, and she's realizing that she is important. She's a little bit of a journey. It's like kind of a, not coming of age. She's 30, or she's in her mid-20s, but it is sort of her becoming more independent. And she talks about how she always thinks of herself as someone that, like, she enters people's lives And then when she moves on, they are unaffected by her. And she's starting to realize like she is important to people, or she does make a lasting impression even on people that she doesn't think that she was that important to. So I thought that was like a really nice realization to read, and it made me think about the way I imagine myself in people's lives that I'm no longer really present in anymore. And I honestly don't think about it too much. I don't know if anyone does. I don't know if that's something people do. But it was nice to kind of sit and reflect and think about people that I don't see anymore, or people that I've lost touch with, and wonder, like, do they think about me? It's kind of fun. Whether positive or negative, it's just kind of nice to think about memories with people, and whether, like, realizing that everyone has those memories. I don't know, I'm rambling. But overall, I thought it was really nice. Like, I think anyone could enjoy this book, like any gender, any age, any race. Like, it's really funny in places. I didn't write down every single funny thing, but there were a lot of really funny moments. There were a lot of like moments where she is experiencing like nightlife for the first time, or like she's starting to date, and it's a little bit cringy, but it's not like secondhand embarrassment bad. It's just kind of like which makes it a little fun. And there's a lot of different and interesting characters. There's a lot of family dynamics that were interesting. There's some ups and downs. Like, if it was a TV show, I think it would be such a great series. Oh, who should we suggest that to? No, it's really good. So I liked it. I think you should read it. If you don't, I'll be mad at you. I don't know. I wish people would read these books and tell me if you've read them, seriously. But I have stippled. Not much has really changed from the beginning. I think I've filled out a little bit more. But yeah, you see not much. It's just I don't want to call it boring. It is my art and I love it, but it's the less eventful bit. So that's yeah, that was the book. I liked it.